Are you feeling a resistance or a block right now around wanting to move forward with something, but then something just doesn't feel right? Or you know that you just need to get to a project, but you're procrastinating on it. So maybe it's like feeling resistant to being more productive, to doing more work. Or you know that you can really put yourself out there in so much, like much bigger ways and really applying or asking for those opportunities to come to you, but you somehow you're just not doing it. Or you know that there's that one conversation that's very important, but somehow you're not really moving forward, like external, like you're like thinking about it, but something like you just feel blocked somehow somatically. And I really want to talk about that in this episode today because so this is what most people do. Most people, when they feel this kind of resistance, they either, number one, they think that there's something wrong with this resistance. And then when it gets too much, then people, like, we can start judging ourselves. Like, why can't you just do it? It's so simple, right? You just like press that button and then you post. You just press that button and you send out that email. You just say, hey, let's talk. And you have that conversation. Why is it so hard? And then we start getting into this spiral of judgment and we start judging ourselves for it. And often when this happens, like what I've seen from people is that most of us, we just push through. We think we need to somehow bust through this resistance, or we have to like put lots of willpower onto ourselves to push ourselves into finally be able to do it. And I want to offer that that has never been the case that has worked for me. And I've never really seen this work for people ever. What this does is when you force yourself to take actions when internally you're not truly aligned, what this does is this only leads to temporary, like it's only temporary. Like the push, the moving forward, it's only temporary. Temporary, you will send out that email and then you stop. Or you'll like make yourself force yourself into doing something and then you self-sabotage yourself afterwards. Because you're like forcing yourself to do something that internally you're not fully, it just doesn't feel fully right for you. It just doesn't feel fully aligned. And what I've seen all the time, every single time that works is to do healing work, to do work that helps you connect with the parts of you that's hurt, right? That actually connects with the part of you that is so resistant to really help you understand it so much better. And so some people call this parts work, some people call it inner child work. It's really they're very related, right? So it's kind of like there are these fragmented parts of you that were not tended to before, that were not soothed and comforted before. And so when these parts start acting up, then what ends up happening is they like these very childlike parts of you gets charged and they become triggered. And they are the reasons that it's like, no, I don't want to do this, right? That comes up. That's like, no, this is so scary. Let's not move forward with these. And that's when these parts of you come up. So I had the experience of this recently. So recently I've been thinking about wanting to show up more on LinkedIn. So for my business and for my audience right now, it's mostly in my email podcast and a little bit on YouTube and also on Instagram mostly. So that's where I'm the most active. And I have not been showing up on LinkedIn at all for the longest time. And I would say right now the contacts I have out there on there and the people that I connect with on there are a lot of them they don't know what I do. And I haven't really just introduced myself at all on that platform. And so this year, I really want to get more onto LinkedIn and just, connect with people on that platform. But something has just been holding me back for the longest time. I've been feeling just so resistant about wanting to post, and I felt like I'm back into that feeling again of in my when I first started my business, when I started telling people that I'm a life coach, that this is what I do, and start experiencing that. And I felt like I had to like go through that whole experience all over again. And and I was just like feeling a little bit frustrated, like, why is it so hard? I thought I've gotten over this by now, just like being able to post everywhere. But LinkedIn, I felt like it's a whole different vibe for me. It's a whole different game. And so this is what I did, right? Like instead of forcing myself to push myself to post something onto LinkedIn, what I did was I really sat with myself and I really took myself through this experience of visiting my inner child and really connect with her and really asking her the question of like, what are you feeling? Why is it so hard for you to post on LinkedIn? And the experience that I got back was that specific moment of when I was at university and I studied business. So when I was in university doing a presentation in my business class, and I had to wear like this, and it was like a whole environment in the class where we had to wear like very uptight suits. Like I remember actually wearing like white, like very formal attire, like black business suits, and I had to wear a what's it called? Like a blazer and dress myself all up and presenting a business case study in front of other students, and everything was all so business-like, so corporate so formal. And on that, in front of those people, when I was presenting, I felt like I was being judged. Like I felt like somehow there's something like I'm in the wrong, and then they're all looking at me as if they're judging me. Now, it might not be entirely true, but that was how I interpreted it, and that was my experience of it. I felt like I was in front of this panel. I need to like perform for them, and I was being judged, and it just gave me all the ick, and I think that was. And when I really connected with my inner child, like that was the moment that it came out for me. And so I was like, oh my gosh, if this is how I feel when I show up on LinkedIn, no wonder why I would feel this way. Right. And I really had to like go back to really love her, to really comfort her, and to really let her know that you're not being judged right now. You're gonna be okay. And of course, it makes sense why you would be so resistant to putting yourself on LinkedIn if this is your interpretation of it and if this is how you feel, right? And really let her know that you're going to be okay. And so I really sat with myself and really took myself through this process to really understand why I was feeling so resistant, right? Can you imagine if I ignored this part of me and I just forced myself to post anyways? Oh my gosh, I would be so traumatized afterwards. I would just post and like not post after a really long time. I think this is what makes a lot of people not really show up on social media or show up in big ways, is that they force themselves to do something they actually don't want, that actually they actually get even more traumatized by afterwards. And so they require 1 week or 2 weeks or a lot longer for them to recover after that. Right. And that's never the experience that I want to offer for you every time when you really put yourself out there to do things that require courage, that requires you to really face your fears. And so after I took myself through that process of just really being with myself, and I felt more whole and more complete and more healed afterwards, then after coming out of that meditative process and that healing somatic process with myself, I felt so much braver. I felt less resistant to just write something and just post, because somatically and in my nervous system, I feel more healed, right? And so often it's not from you pushing yourself to do something. It's actually first that's heal through the trauma, first that's heal through your nervous system, so that coming out, you will feel braver and you will feel less resistant to do the things that you want to do. Coming out, you will feel like you are moving forward whole and complete. You're moving forward together instead of leaving parts of you behind. And often, a lot of the times, those parts, they just want to be seen, they just want to be comforted, and they just want to be loved by you, right? And so, this is what I want to offer for you for this week. Instead of forcing yourself and pushing yourself into doing something that you actually don't want to do, that you don't feel internally aligned, I invite you to sit with those parts of you and to heal through your resistance instead. And so I actually created a guided healing meditation track to help you really to it's like a very guiding meditative process that helps you tap into yourself to really connect with your inner child somatically. And in this track, I also really kind of like help you facilitate conversations and help you tend to those parts of you that require some love and that require some through soothing. Because I feel like for me personally, meditation, like just normal meditations and normal visualizations, sometimes they don't really work for me because I want like very minimal guidance, like some guidance to help me tap into it. But I also find myself needing a lot of space and a lot of conversations where I can customize the experience for me. And so I felt like this is something that's missing out there. And so I wanted to create this meditation because this has worked for me so much. And this is also the personal and the actual experience I take a lot of my clients through whenever I take them through one-on-one sessions to help them to guide them, ease them into this meditative process where they can be with themselves and they can help guide themselves through this. So this guided healing meditation track to help you move past your resistance, this is going to be on sale, but I've decided to maybe make it free for a limited time for all of you who are listening. So at the time that this episode is out, for the week that this episode is out, this will be able to be accessible for you for free. And all I ask is that you help me leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you listen to. So help leave me a review and a rating and maybe take a screenshot of it and just email it to me or send it over to me on Instagram at Daring Living. And I will send over the link for you to download the meditation track and for you to access it and to use it whenever you would like. So I do this because for me personally, I find that when there is a value in exchange, when I'm doing putting energy into something, the thing that I receive back, I often treat it with more care, and there's usually more power to it whenever I am downloading something, even if it is for free. And also, in general, I also just love to give back to the podcasters and the content creators that I really enjoy listening to. It makes me feel very good to be able to help people that way. And so, if you also find my podcast helpful, I would love it and appreciate it so much if you can leave me a review and rating, just so that more and more people can really listen to this podcast and we can help put this podcast out there for more people to be exposed to this kind of work. Your inner child is the most honest, the most direct, no BS version of you. Like if they're hurt, they will let you know. If something is not right, if internally they're not aligned, they will let you know. Even though logically you're like, okay, that makes sense, but your inner child always tells you what's not working truly. And your inner child is always here to let you know and remind you of what you're not seeing and where you're not tending to your needs. And so if we can look at our inner child this way, instead of seeing it as something that is just here to throw a tantrum, then it's not that helpful, right? I want you to think of a child who is maybe like a child who doesn't want to do homework. If you're just like telling them like, no, you need to do homework now, what is the child gonna do? Most likely the child is gonna throw a fit. If the child is gonna throw a tantrum, and the child is going to rebel even more, right? And so what actually works so much better if we is when we comfort the child, when we actually understand why the child doesn't want to do homework, when we have conversations with them, when we love them, right? And when we talk to them in a very soothing way, letting them know that they're going to be okay. And so when we tend to our inner child and when we love ourselves this way, what you will realize is overall, you will be able to find yourself having less resistance and being able to move forward easier every time when we can first tend to our inner child and heal through anything that is holding us back before we move forward. This is actually the best way, actually, for you to move forward. And so that you feel whole and complete instead of always feeling like you're taking one step forward and five steps back, right? It's like actually let's move forward together. Let's love all parts of us as we are moving forward. All right. So again, you can download the meditation track. Just send me a screenshot of your review on Spotify or Apple Podcast. You can send it over to me through email or on my Instagram at Daring Living. I know that this is going to be so helpful for you, and I can't wait for you to really lean in and really listen to this for yourself too. All right. Have a good week. I will talk to you next week. Bye.